shift gears. Our division rivals. I want to talk about what they did. Carolina took Tet McMillan. Saints got Kelvin Banks, someone that we were high on too. And Tampa Bay, oddly, takes Emeka Egbuka, who is praised for high IQ, good leadership. But I mean, you have Evans, you have Godwin, you have McMillan. So it's kind of like where does Egbuka really land within? I mean, it's great you have four receivers, but that almost felt like a panic pick. Which picks did you like that our division rivals made? Which picks are you kind of like, what are they doing here?
It's one of those where it's really hard to give credit, right? I always, every time I talk about how I am I'm a really big fan of what's his name in Tampa. Like, I feel like I need to drink bleach, right? Like quarterback. And all of a sudden
Baker?
I'm a huge fan of Baker. Have been since his time in Oklahoma, right? But every time I say that because he plays for the Bucs now, I need to go drink bleach. But when you look at those picks, yeah, the McMillan pick by Tampa, I mean by Charlotte, makes a lot of sense, right? You went out and you got a 6'4", 6'5" stretch for Bryce Young, who at the end of the year looked like he had finally learned how to be an NFL quarterback, right? And so now you went out and you got him a weapon. You probably can't fucking protect him, but you went out and you got him a really good weapon. Because I think arguably, I know Travis Hunter went too, but McMillan to me is a guy that's a far better wide receiver than Travis Hunter is. And for me, it's not even debatable. So you went out, you got him. I really do like that pick. But as a guy who was an offensive lineman for 20 years, Kelvin Banks is a guy I wanted here. I've said it a million times. I wanted him here to protect the blind side of Michael Penix. I love that pick for the Saints. It sucks that he goes there because I absolutely will not root for him now. But I think those two absolutely knocked it out of the park. And as far as Tampa, Emeka Egbuka, that's probably, of the three, that's probably the worst. I'm sure he's going to be a fine wide receiver. Obviously, he went in the first round. He's got some talent. He was fine at Ohio State last year. Obviously, wasn't their number one, which is should just show you how deep they were at Ohio State at wide receiver, because you can make the argument that Egbuka was probably their number three for most of the season. So for me, if I had to put it in order, just based upon the need, I would actually go the order of how they were drafted. I would say McMillan won. Because, again, you gave Bryce Young what he needed in Charlotte, which is a weapon. You gave him a big weapon. You gave him a big-time target. You've got, you don't have a quarterback, but damn it, you got an offensive tackle now. And you look at the Saints, the last 2 years, they've addressed both tackle spots. I think they're building the right way. I have always maintained, for me, I will never take a quarterback in the first round until I have the offensive line set. I just won't do it and the example that I give is Patrick Mahomes. When you look at the Chiefs built both lines of scrimmage, and the last piece they needed was Patrick Mahomes, right? They go get that final piece. They go get a guy that, by the way, most people had no idea who Patrick Mahomes was. They couldn't tell you he went to Texas Tech. They couldn't tell you how good he was in college. They have no idea. But he was the final piece that they needed, and look what it's turned into. I think the Saints, as much as I hate to say it, they're seem to be building it the right way. You got both bookend tackles. They're building the offensive lines. They're trying to do it right so that when they do go draft a quarterback, and I think you can make an argument that they're eyeing next year for a very specific hometown kid, that they're going to make sure that he's going to be protected either way. And then for me, with the Bucs taking a wide receiver, I don't know that doesn't change who they are. That doesn't change them at all. It doesn't make them any more of a threat in the division than they were last year. So for me, I would get it like that. But again, ultimately, I think the Falcons had the best day of anybody in the NFC South. And that's not me because I'm wearing Falcons shit. I'm just saying, when you look overall, the Falcons had a much better day than anybody else in the NFC South. Fuck the Saints.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, last year, they went and got Fuaga, my favorite lineman in last year's draft. Now they get Banks, who you can argue he's just as good as Will Campbell. So they're definitely building up that line. I hope it's not for a quarterback coming out next year, because if they get Nussmeier or even Arch, that would be a little scary behind that line. So hopefully they go and draft someone this year, because I don't think this year's QB class is going to be as good as next year.
No, next year's quarterback class is absolutely insane, right? And you know, you got Cade Klubnik, you got Nussmeier coming out. You'll have what's his name that just left Georgia, transferred to Miami. Who? Yes,
Beck.
I'm still hot. Yeah, I'm still high on Carson Beck. I know Georgia fans love to shit on him. I'm still high on Carson Beck. I think Nussmeier probably has the best arm in that class. I think Cade Klubnik's the best overall quarterback. And by the way, they face off in week 1 in Clemson in Death Valley under the lights. And then you have a guy like Arch Manning, who, by the way, to me, Arch Manning is Shedeur Sanders 2.0. There's a lot of hype because of the name, not necessarily because of the talent. But I guess we'll find out a lot about Arch Manning here in the next 4, 5, 6 months.
Yeah, definitely. So, and that could be a reason why, by the way, that the Rams wanted to stockpile on first round picks. They're probably going to try to get aggressive and move up next year to get Stafford's replacement. Jeff, speaking of other trade ups, Travis Hunter and Jaxson Dart were the other 2 players taken with a team trading up. So obviously the Jags gave up their first round pick in 2026 to move up 3 spots to go take Travis Hunter, and the Giants slid up 9 spots to go from, I believe, 33 to 24 to go get Jaxson Dart. Do you like either move?
No, absolutely not. You know, when I look at what they did in Jacksonville, and a lot of people want to blame Trevor Lawrence as if he's the problem in Jacksonville. The problem in Jacksonville is exactly what they fucking did yesterday, right? You have a bunch of idiots running the front office who don't know what they're doing. And ultimately, you went out and got Travis Hunter, who to me is a gimmick. Yes, he's a hell of an athlete. He's a local kid here, went to Collins Hill High School. There's a lot of things you can say. I still don't know that I would have given him the Heisman, but I understand why he got it. But when he faced off against the elite wide receivers, couldn't hang with him. And then when he was faced with, a couple of the better DBs he faced, he couldn't do anything there either, right? So you went out and got a guy who's essentially probably the 4th best wide receiver prospect in this draft, and maybe the 5th or 6th best DB prospect in this draft, and you drafted him number 2 overall because you're hoping to sell tickets. This doesn't help Trevor Lawrence. This doesn't make them any better on offense. This doesn't make them any better on defense, if we're being completely honest. People think the Falcons got fleeced. The Jaguars absolutely got fleeced for a guy who's not going to be their number 1 on either side of the fucking football. So I hate that draft pick. They would have been better off staying at number 5 and going to get a guy like McMillan, right? You go out and you want to get Trevor Lawrence an actual target. You had an actual target, and instead he's going, and by the way, it works out well for us, right? Going to the Jets, because I think that was one of those moves that helped facilitate Jalen Walker sliding down to number 15. But if you really wanted Trevor Lawrence to have some help, you'd have taken McMillan. Again, big target, big wide receiver, fast, his catch radius is absolutely asinine. That to me was a dumb move. And then what the fuck are the Giants doing? How many quarterbacks do you need? Like, what are you going to line Jameis Winston up at tight end now? Like, what are you doing? And by the way, I love Jaxson Dart. Last year, you can go back and you can check my Twitter, because I'm sure everybody will fucking do it anyway. I had Jaxson Dart as the best returning quarterback in college football coming into this last year. I thought he was the Heisman Trophy frontrunner. Like, I really thought he was going to have that good of a year. And obviously, he had a step back. But when you look at all the tools, for me, when you look at the 3 quarterbacks, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Jaxson Dart, those were the three quarterbacks that everybody had at the top of the list, right? In some sort of order. All very similar, right? The tools are all similar. Their deficiencies are all similar. I would have taken Jaxson Dart before the other 2. Call me racist, whatever. It has nothing to do with the fact that he's fucking white. I just think that his body of work in the SEC, going from USC, but then starting 38 games at Ole Miss, he wasn't a traveling salesman like Cam Ward, who had to go from jump to jump to jump to jump. He wasn't a Shedeur Sanders who had to have daddy, coached his way up to make sure that he was able to go be a FBS quarterback. Yeah, and save the fucking comments because I know they're coming. He wasn't ever going to be a quarterback at Georgia or Alabama, which is why he committed to FIU to begin with. Jaxson Dart was that dude at USC. Again, started as a true freshman, wasn't happy, so he left, and then started 38 games at Ole Miss. So for me, I thought Jaxson Dart would have been quarterback number one. I wouldn't have taken any of these quarterbacks in the first round to begin with, let alone at number one. But the move just made absolutely no sense for the Giants because they didn't need a fucking quarterback. Like you have Russell Wilson, you have Jameis Winston, you have Tommy DeVito, who's trash anyway. But now you have a fourth quarterback. What again? You're gonna run the Notre Dame box with four fucking quarterbacks? Like what are you doing with this? It made absolutely no sense. They had a great number pick at 3 overall with Abdul Carter, but then for you to trade back into the first round to go get a fourth quarterback, I'm just glad if I was a Giants fan, I'd have drunk bleach and jumped off a bridge by now, to be honest with you.
And Jeff, why is the mainstream media not ripping them? Because every single mock draft had the Giants trading up to get Jaxson Dart. You can look at it. Schrager, Daniel Jeremiah, all of these insiders knew about this trade 3 days ago. That is why they're not ripping that trade. That is why no one's questioning, oh, they got 4 quarterbacks in the room. By the way, you can call Dart QB1. I don't think that, look, set aside Ward. Let's just look at Dart. I don't think Dart goes anywhere near the first round last year. Like, he might fall somewhere between Knicks and Rattler because Rattler went in round 5. That was just such a big variance last year. But I think he's closer to like a second or third rounder. He's not sniffing the first round last year, in my opinion.
No, but that's why he came back because his NFL draft grade, I think, was 3 to 5 last year, right? But that's why Cam Ward found a new home because his draft grade last year was 6th round of free agency, right? Like none of these quarterbacks that are going to go in the first 2 rounds this year would have been drafted in the first 5 or 6 rounds last year. I think all of them probably 7th round draft picks last year. Despite because typically when you take a draft card, you can almost always add an extra round onto that thing, right? Just because of needs and everything else. So you look at the quarterbacks who went in the first round this year between Dart and Ward. Last year they're either not getting drafted or they're 6th or 7th round, right? Like it's just that's how bad the quarterback year was this year, and next year's a lot better than this year. But again, I think both of those trades, again, call me a homer. The Falcons of the 3 trades that took place yesterday, the Falcons had the best trade of the day.
Yeah. And look, did we pay a premium? Yeah, maybe, but we got our guy. We in our draft board, Pierce was top 3, and we got him. So yeah. I don't know what to say. And Terry Fontenot dropped something in his presser too. I think he had the highest hurry rate or pressure rate out of every edge rusher in this class. So yep. For the first time, I actually feel really good about our depth at deep. You're talking about we already had Leonard Floyd. We have Arnold Ebiketie. Now we get Pierce and Walker. Now there's just, for the first time, there's so much talent everywhere, and hopefully they all come together. I think Ra was talking about how the pass rush is going to be sort of like a basketball team where people are just coming in and out. And I think he was kind of referring to that last year too, but I totally see that vision now this year.
So shout out to my nephew. He's listening live. He just sent me the thing, and it was 2 things. One, he had the highest success rate overall in college football. And number 2, he had the highest percentage of pass rush with a pressure last season at 23.4%. And that's, Braden Swinson, 20%, Abdul Carter, 19.6, Jalen Walker, 19.5, Mike Green, 17.8, Mikael Williams, 11.5. And the one caveat, a star that I put at Jalen Walker, let's remember last year, he played all 3 levels at Georgia, right? He was a rush end at times. He was an off the ball linebacker at times, and they even had him in fucking safety some of the time. Right, so this wasn't a guy who was just a 7 or 9 technique lined up trying to go get the quarterback like a lot of these guys were. This was a guy that moved all around the football and still have a decent success rate like that. Speaks volumes about who Jalen Carter is as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, if if another guy, if Mike Green falls to 101 somehow, some
No,
way,
no.
no, okay.
For me, I hate to cut you off, right? And I don't ever do that. I have no desire to have Mike Green on my roster.
But do you think the Falcons? I know I get that, but do you think like he's still on the Falcons board?
No, I think they've addressed that need at edge, and I think they're going to move on. You know,
fair enough.
with the Leonard Floyd signing, right? With drafting of these two, you now have 3 edge rushers. Don't forget, you still have Trice, who's coming off, who will be back this year. You know, you've got, and hell, they may even bring back
Judon,
right? Like he's still out there unsigned. And so, you know, there's still, and for me, I would rather have Matthew Judon again than have Mike Green. That'll piss me because I know there's a lot of Mike Green fans out there because they bought into what the wolf tickets the media is selling. But I think the Falcons are not. You won't see the Falcons draft a defensive end this year. You probably won't see them draft one next year. You know, if they were to draft a defensive lineman, you know, tonight or tomorrow, it would be a defensive tackle, which I wouldn't be mad at.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. One more thing that I wanted to get across before we hop off, Jeff. I know we were talking a little bit about Jalen Ramsey earlier, but do you think that what do you call it? Do you think that's going to take? Do you think that because I think they were getting rumors that they were looking for a second? Do you think a third or fourth would be enough for that? Like, what's the Dolphins' asking price?
So let's remember what they paid for him. They paid a 3rd round and a tight end for him. I said it on episode 5. Give them a 3rd round and Kyle Pitts. Give them what they got for him. And hell, it may even be a little bit of an upgrade at tight end. I don't know. You know, I just, for me, at this point, I wouldn't give up a 2nd round pick for Ramsey, and I don't think the Falcons would be willing to do so either. Again, this is a guy entering year 10 of his career. He'll be 31. Yes, you know, he's on the verge of having what would be a Hall of Fame career. Like he's been that good. And I think he provides a lot of leadership and a lot of the veteran presence, the Super Bowl ring, all of those things are very much intangibles that you can't draft that, right? Like you can sign it, you can trade for it. You can't draft that. And so I think there are a lot of intangibles that are really intriguing. And so I don't know that I would give a 2nd, but I would absolutely give 101 for him. I would absolutely send 101 and Kyle Pitts for him. I may even give you a 3rd this year and a 3rd next year for him, right? Like I'm not giving you above a 3rd. I'll give you 2 thirds. I'm not giving you a 2nd though, and I'm not damn sure not giving you a 1st, right? So I think if the Dolphins really want, if the relationship is really soured and the Dolphins want to move off of him, and you know the Falcons are one of the 2 preferred destinations between here and I think DC was the other one. The football team was the other rumor that he was interested in going to. You know, I think it would behoove the Falcons to get into a bidding war. But again, part of that bidding war is I would not move off a 3rd round pick for him.
Okay, I'm going to change gears on you. I apologize. Now I'm going to switch you back to rookies.
Yep.
You put this out there, but I just want you to address it to the audience as well.
Okay.
People were talking about off-field issues for James Pierce and Mike Green. Can you elaborate on the differences in those off-field issues and whether or not we have any, whether we should be concerned about that for James Pierce?
So I think the first one was the rumor about Mike Green, right? The rumor was that there were some sexual assault allegations. None of them have ever been confirmed, right? One was in high school, one was at UVA. But I do have actual friends, not acquaintances, not sources. I have actual friends that are NFL coaches. Okay. And if you pay attention to my Twitter, you know exactly who they are. We converse not frequently, but you know, they were a part of a conversation that his team's conversation with, it was a Zoom call with Mike Green. And when Mike was asked about the assault on a woman who was hospitalized because the assault was that brutal, his attitude immediately flipped, which is crazy because you had to know the question was coming. And all he could say was, you know, I'm over that. I'm in therapy. I'm moving on. You know, it's not going to happen again. Probably the wrong answer, right? Like NFL teams are looking for accountability. And so, you know, you have a guy who has beaten a woman so bad she was hospitalized versus a guy with James Pierce. He had an altercation with a cop. And look, I know there are a lot of really right-leaning people And this is not a political show. I'm not here to bang on left or rights. I do both. I bang on both of them enough on Twitter because I can't stand politicians, right? But a run-in with the police during a traffic stop is not the same as beating a woman, right? Those are not character issues. We've all seen traffic stops where cops are absolute a-holes. We've all seen traffic stops where it's not the cop who's the a-hole, it's the passenger. And until we see the video, we don't know how it went, but we do know that it was a traffic stop where he got belligerent with a cop, and that was that. It wasn't him beating somebody. It wasn't him selling dope. It wasn't him, doing it. It was him getting into a battle with a cop. And it's not like he got out and he got physical. They got into a verbal altercation. Something that honestly, even if you are a staunch cop supporter, you've probably done in your time as well. You've gotten a little belligerent with a cop, right? Like that's, you get irritated. They pull you over doing their job, and they have a really tough job to do. There's no doubt about that one. But to me, there's a huge difference in the character assassinations that are taking place with a guy like James Pierce, with a guy like Mike Green, because what they were accused of doing or what they've admitted to doing are two very, very different situations in hand. One of them, the Falcons would never put up with. The other one, you're going to go have a seat in Terry Fontenot's office and have a conversation with your position coach, your head coach, and your general manager.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just the Falcons. The guy clearly has pass rushing talent, and he fell out of the first round. I mean, that it's not everyone probably took notice. So it's just going to be interesting to see how much he's going to slip in the draft.
No, and look, he may go in the top 5 picks tonight. He might, right? But ultimately, I knew of 5 different NFL teams that took Mike Green completely off their draft boards, right? Like it was that bad of a situation where he was completely taken off of their draft boards because 1, the situation was really that bad, but then 2, the lack of accountability was also really eye-opening for those teams.
That's crazy, Jeff. Well, I think that pretty much wraps us up today. On a lighter note, one last question for you.
Yes, sir.
How many sacks does James Pierce need to get for you to sing Rocky Top?
Will never fucking happen.
Come
Ever.
on, man. You gotta give me a number, dude.
16.
He hit 16. Oh, and that's it.
Yes.
Okay.
If he hit 16 as a rookie, I will sing Rocky Top for you.
Let's go, baby. All right. Cool. That's all I needed to hear. But anyways, guys, that wraps up. Billy Goat clip wants us to clip that. That wraps us the 6th episode of Flight Path. Thank you guys for everyone that listened live. We're going to upload this to YouTube and Spotify tomorrow, but seriously, really appreciate your support. You can find Jeff on Twitter at JMB_CU16 and myself at Andrew Duhan. Really appreciate all you guys and hope that the Falcons get a really good player again tonight. Let's keep surprising. Terry's off to a hot start. Let him keep that momentum going.
Yes, sir. Hey, rise up, go Falcons. And as we said yesterday, the motto for 2025 is FTH, baby.